Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video. So today's video is a video of my tier list ratings for every Premier League team. So as you can see, the ratings are D, like awful, C, just below par, not great, B, average, like but good, A, very good, and then there's just the top ranking for the best team of the season. So to caveat, this is just Premier League. So I know some teams did well in other competition. First team is Arsenal, and I'm going to give them an A. They could have gone to the top one if they had won the Premier League. I don't think, out of all the second in a row, I think this is the worst one in my opinion. I think they played well in games. They beat Man City 5-1. They won loads of other games really well. But I just think they fell unstuck. They drew silly games. They just didn't quite maintain it. And whenever Liverpool had that blip, they'd never really capitalised on it. And I think not having a striker killed them. Like, literally, what are they doing in January not signing anyone? Next is Aston Villa. I'm going to give them a B just because I know that we getting European football for them is really good. They had a really strong season. They had scored loads of goals. They were just so fun to watch. Like, they had a really good January transfer window with Daniel, Marlon, Asensio and Rashford. I just thought, yeah, I think they fell off towards the end. I think they were tired from the Champions League, but they still had a very good season. Next is Brentford, and I think they had a good season. They were quite inconsistent because it was really funny. They would win loads of games at home, lose loads of games away, and then it would flip around. There was no consistency in that sense, but they had a really weird start to the season because they had no Ivan Toney. He just left. They signed this guy called Igor Thiago. He got injured, and it was like, where are the goals going to come? But Mbeumo, Wissa, and Sade had amazing seasons. Like, it's crazy. They just scored a bucket load of goals. I think where they don't go into A is because obviously missing out in Europe. Obviously they're not expected to get that, but I think that will hurt them. And also, I think they weren't super consistent. Next is Brighton. I think they were the best of that rest that didn't finish in a European spot. It was been a really good season from them. Fabian Hurtzler came in and people were like, oh, who is this guy? He only managed one team, St. Pauli. He's quite young. Losing De Zerbi was a bit of a blow. I think they were mostly on the whole really good, and they won loads of really good games. Their investment in players is amazing. Like, they're always bringing in unknown players. I feel like the reason why they can't go into A is because there's been a few games where they didn't close it out. I remember Wolves, they had a 3-on-1 attack and Wolves still scored. There was a game against Nottingham Forest, they lost 7-0. But if you take those few games out, they've had a really good season. Next is Bournemouth. Another really solid season for Bournemouth. They got a record points total and just everything was really good. There was even discussion of Champions League, Europa League. I think their injuries just mounted up too much, and I think that's where the drop-off happened and why they didn't ultimately get Europe. But on the whole, I think they're really good. They got a really good team with Semenyo, Kluivert, Christie. I think Antonio Iraola's done a really good job. And then they beat Man City at home. They beat Arsenal at home. They really did well. There was that period of time where they were beating all these big teams, and they really believed. And it was just a shame they couldn't ultimately make it there. Next is Chelsea. Now, you might think, what? They made Champions League. They did what they needed it to do. And yes, that is true. I think they had a good season and they've really improved from the season before. And they've got a young squad, a young manager. And I think they've had a good season where they've won games and done well. But I think they've ultimately, I think there was periods of time where they weren't gelling, they weren't good, and they just seemed to be a bit weird. Like, and also the fact that they had to take it to the last game of the season to get the top 4, and it was just, I just think that isn't good for a club like Chelsea. Next is Crystal Palace. They also got their points record tally, and if I was just doing this based on their FA Cups season and combining it, that would be like amazing. Like, That was amazing for them to win their first ever major trophy. But if I'm looking at it from their Premier League season, I actually think that their start of the season was really poor. They lost like their first 8 games. I thought Ole Glasner was going to get sacked at one point, but then something clicked. They started winning games. They were really solid. The likes of Eze and Mateta and all those guys, they were really, really good towards the end of the season. They ended it really, really strongly. Next is Everton. Well, Everton's a funny one because they've had 2 managers this season, and I'm going to put them in C, underwhelming. Like, I remember under Dyche, they would win a few games, but they would go through long periods of time where they wouldn't even look like scoring. They wouldn't even get a point, and it was very turgid football. And there was points of the season where people think, could they go down? Where it doesn't become a D is when David Moyes came in. They actually had a bounce where they won a few games, they drew lots of games, and they were just looking a lot more solid. The fact that they were moving out of Goodison Park and the end of that season where they had to say goodbye to an iconic stadium, I think that really spurred them on. My team next, Fulham, much like the other teams I've discussed in that middle pack, I would say we've had a good season. We got our record points total. We played well throughout the season in parts. I thought we were good. I was really happy with certain games we played. Against the top sides, we were like, oh my god. It was almost like we were playing the relegation sides at the top. And so yeah, we had we would win. We were unbeaten against Liverpool. We were unbeaten against other teams like that, and it was crazy. Like, we were winning games that we weren't expected to win. And ultimately why I don't make it A is because the teams below us, we were really poor. Like, we struggled against Southampton at home. We drew twice to Ipswich. It was just like we were always in and around it, but we never quite capitalised. We'd win a couple of games, then we'd lose a couple of games. We'd win, lose. And since January, we didn't even draw a game. We were like win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And it was really hard to know what Fulham would turn up. But yeah, we've had some really solid performances from like Raul Jimenez, Calvin Bassey, Alex Iwobi, Berger and Sasha Lukic. Next is Ipswich. Ipswich going into this season, I didn't have much hope. They built a really nice squad. But ultimately it's a very top championship squad, very low Prem squad, and ultimately a lot of their players just didn't have experience, and they felt like a Luton to me, where they would be close in games and people would say, oh, they made the other teams work hard for their wins and they were close. Ultimately, they didn't really have it when it mattered. I think having 2 promotions in a row really took their toll. I think they got to the Premier League way before they expected to. Next is Leicester City. Like, Leicester City coming back up, winning the championship. They were the best of the relegated sides, but only just. They won a few at the end. But they went through a long period of not scoring. They were really, really poor. I don't even understand. They sacked Steve Cooper, and for what reason? I didn't think he was doing an amazing job, but the drop-off when Ruud van Nistelrooy, I'm sorry to be hard, was absolutely awful. Like, yeah, I think they won their first game or something when he came in. And then, since then, they just lost game after game. They went something like 8 games without even scoring. Next is Liverpool. Now, they're just ultimately going to be the best team of the season. They had an amazing season. And people go, oh, the league was easy. No, the league wasn't easy. Because I know other teams dropped off, but Liverpool didn't drop off. That's not easy. That's not easy to do, and also they were just really good, and also the fact that they had a new manager that didn't know this league. Arne Slot didn't know the players, and they didn't even sign anyone, which is a testament to how Klopp built his team, apart from Chiesa, that is, and he made a few tweaks, putting McAllister a bit further forward and Gravenberch a bit more deeper, and even in games that they struggled, they still came out with a point or a win, and it's like real credit to them. The form of Salah, most goals and assists in a season, well, joint and it's just some of the players, he just got the best out of them, and it was just really amazing. And next is Manchester City. Now you might be thinking, hang on a minute, why are you putting them in C? Well, I think considering our expectations for Man City was probably to win the league. No one expected Liverpool to win the league. Everyone expected City to either do the 5-peat or come close, and they dropped off. They had a really poor. Like, for me, I look at it and go, how on earth did they even make top 4, top 5? And I'm like, because they went through a period where they were just losing game after game, and something just didn't look right. I think maybe the players are tired. Maybe it's just do we, like, that whole feeling of like, oh, do we have to go again? It's kind of not as special now. And yeah, players like Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, other players like that just looked tired. The loss of Rodri in that game against Arsenal, who missed the 99% of the season, is a big blow. He's a crucial player that keeps the team ticking and gelling. He's a Ballon d'Or winner, so losing him was a big loss. Next is Manchester United, and boy, it's their worst ever Premier League season. Like, literally, it's been so bad. So bad. Like, so Ten Hag, at the start of the season, we weren't sure if he was going to stay. Just won the FA Cup, so we thought maybe the new ownership was going to give him time. And they gave him a load of money, and he signed loads of players. And it just kind of started like how it did the season before. Nothing gelled. They go 1-0 down and then they collapse. I just don't get it. Like, Højlund offered nothing up front, and the only player that did it was Bruno Fernandes. And if he wasn't on form, then no one else was. They brought in Amorim, and he's meant to be this great tactician. He did really well at Sporting. He came in and it just hasn't really clicked. Maybe the players can't do his system. Maybe they're trying to learn it all. Next is Newcastle United, and I'm going to give them an A, considering, and that's without their Carabao Cup win, which was amazing. They nearly bottled Champions League football because they lost on the last day, and I think that is quite poor that they've had a bit of a dip, but they've been amazing this season. What Eddie Howe has done, the way that Isak, the form of Isak, the form of Gordon, the form of some of their midfield players has just been absolutely brilliant. They're a breath of fresh air to watch, and when they click and when they gel, they are just so good. They're so good on the counter-attack. Their fast breaks, the way they suffocate teams is absolutely brilliant. And also, my bad, I put them in B. Disclaimer, they're in A. I've changed my mind. Next is Tottenham, and 22 losses, nearly relegated. I think one of the closest, one of the only teams to ever get this amount of points and not be relegated or something ridiculous. Yes, they had injuries. Yes, they were focusing on Europa League, you could say. But still, to lose 22 games is absolutely awful. The way they lost games, they just conceded sloppy goals after sloppy goals, and I don't know. But they scored a bucket load of goals. They're one of the top scorers. They've got to count themselves so lucky, them and Manchester United, that there were 3 worse teams than them. Because ultimately, if those 3 teams weren't as bad as they are, I think that one of them would have gone down. Next is West Ham, and I'm going to ultimately give them the lowest rating as well. They've been really poor. Considering the squad that they have with Jared Bowen, Kudus, Paquetá, and considering they were Conference League winners a few seasons ago, getting Europe, it's just been a poor season. They brought in Lopetegui and they bought loads of players. I thought, they're having a really good window here. It just felt like there was a bit of a fraction between them and the manager, and I don't know why they got him. It wasn't like he'd done a decent job at Wolves, but I don't think he was anything to write home about. And then he got sacked and brought Graham Potter, and I was quite hopeful. I praised Graham Potter. Apart from his time at Chelsea, I think he's a pretty decent manager. And there was just no bounce. Next is Wolves. I'm putting them in C just because they managed to get out of that relegation battle. They were looking like for a long time of the season that they could be the team that gets dragged down to this. They were so close for a lot of the season. And yeah, Gary O'Neill did a decent job the season before, but ultimately I just don't know what went wrong with them. And they had a lot of disciplinary issues, a lot of just players just not looking like they wanted to be there. They sacked Gary O'Neill and got Vitor Pereira, and he really changed it. He changed the system, changed the team around, and they went on a really good winning run. And ultimately, they managed to push their way out of that relegation battle, and that's why I bumped them up, because they ended the season really strongly. The penultimate team is Southampton. Jeez, where do I even go from here? They look like they were in games, and they didn't get battered, but ultimately they were so bad. 12 points, only 1 point better than that Derby side. And for a lot of the season, everyone was going, they're going to beat Derby's record. They're going to beat it. And it's just crazy. Like, they didn't really sign anyone. Then, the football they were playing under Russell Martin was really confusing. It was like, it felt like we were going back to Vincent Kompany. Didn't change their way. They were playing out from the back. They looked shot to pieces every game. And yeah, it's just one of the worst Premier League sides we've ever seen. Last, but by no means least, is Nottingham Forest. Now, where do we start with them? Their expectations before the start of the season was, are they going to survive this season? Because they nearly went down the season before. But for a lot of that season, they were considering to be in the Champions League race, and they were, oh my God, where's this come from? And I know, and I put them in A, and I know that they dropped off, and they had a poor end to the season. They got Conference League, not Champions League, where everyone thought that they were going to get. But I ultimately say that was just because they'd run out of steam. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe down below, and I'll see you soon with a brand new video.